consent.
What do you want to say?
Are you on the way or starting?
Here's your message. Okay, it's sent.
I'd like to call to order the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, April 24, 2019, 6 p.m. Madam, roll call.
Commissioner Lawson?
Here.
Commissioner Lanier?
I don't
Here.
think your mic is on, or at least I can't hear it.
Commissioner McCoy? Vice Chair Botel?
Here.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Present.
Also present, Scott Evans, Interim Executive Director, and Michael Haygood, General Counsel.
We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Lawson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions and deletions?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, disclosure by commission and staff. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Vice Chair Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilperson or commissioner so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence of on the agenda. Please let the record reflect that Councilman McCoy is on the dais. Do we have anyone that would like to pull an item from consent? No? All right, do we have any public comment cards for consent?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry, we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy?
Yes.
Vice Chair Botel?
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item number 3, regular business.
CRA Plan Update and New Broadway Vision.
Okay, Mr. Evans?
Good evening, Madam Chair and CRA Board.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to welcome the new board to its first CRA meeting. I want to thank you all for taking the time to meet with me and my staff and learn about the CRA and all of our initiatives. And tonight we're focused on redevelopment, and I wanted to start our first meeting with an overview of some of the new initiatives that we have underway and that we'd like to begin with the new board. The agency work plan for this year includes a major initiative to update the CRA plan. CRAs are required to update their plans to reflect all of our major projects and initiatives and programs. And towards that, the timing, I think, is perfect for the new board to review our existing projects, redefine your redevelopment vision for the future, and update the CRA plan to reflect your updated goals, projects, and new programs. This process will include public input sessions, board workshops, one-on-one meetings with major stakeholders, residents, and one-on-one meetings and workshops with the board. The updates to the plan will include establishing an updated and more targeted redevelopment vision for Broadway, the Avenue E corridor, the Ocean Mall area, and future phases of the Marina Village and Riviera Beach Heights neighborhood. Tonight, Kim Delaney, who's Director of Strategic Development and Policy, is here representing Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. We've been meeting with Kim and their Executive Director, Tom Lanahan, towards developing an interlocal agreement that will allow them to help us update the CRA plan and develop several related projects to help move redevelopment forward. And Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council has done major work previously for the CRA, and we're excited to be developing an interlocal agreement for your future consideration at a future meeting. The CRA plan updates some of the core things we'd like to accomplish, starting with the Broadway corridor. This new effort will include a specific focus on our main downtown street. The development community in the past has been reluctant to propose new projects to the corridor, and we will start our assessment with a market assessment and economic forecast to help understand the market, the potential for redevelopment, and the possibilities for what we could bring to the corridor. This assessment will also include public workshops, focus groups, meeting with major property owners to gather feedback and assist the board in updating your vision for how you want the future roadway to look. Adjacent communities, Lake Park and North Palm Beach, have recently completed similar studies and efforts, and it's important for Riviera Beach to remain competitive with their plans and with our plans by updating it so that we're poised to have a positive redevelopment future. Once the board has updated its vision, it can be incorporated into the new CRA plan and be the basis for development of new grants and development incentives, which will be designed to attract the kind of development that you approve in your new vision. They'll also be the basis for preparation of new zoning and comprehensive plan amendments. These amendments will better position the city to attract new development and remain competitive in our region. The Ocean Mall redevelopment area is an additional focus project that we'd like to embark upon. The agency has recently received multiple new development proposals for the surrounding area and adjacent to the Ocean Mall. These represent a new exciting opportunity for redevelopment that we'd like to study all of the proposals, gather public input, and prepare an updated master plan for the Ocean Mall area that would allow us to try and achieve new development in that area. The Gateway Signature Project is a new initiative that was approved by the board in the budget this past October. This initiative will work with our private property owners to implement a new grant incentive program that's designed to try and replace a lot of the signage that exists along our major gateways and corridors. This process would include several pilot projects and the development of a grant incentive program that would allow the board to establish a design theme for our various areas and then implement public-private grants where we would work with individual property owners to try and replace a lot of the signage that's along our corridors with new signage that's consistent with the board's approved design themes. A new project is that we're excited to be bringing to your attention is the Blue Water Quality Enhancement Project. This will develop a solution to address and clean up many of the derelict boats in our intercoastal waterway. These boats represent a great hazard to the environment, the ecosystem, and to boaters. They're a threat, and by creating a designated anchorage area, which would also be a revenue source, the new initiative would seek to clean up all of the derelict vessels that are existing in our intercoastal waterways. And vessels that do not comply with the new rules and relocate to the newly designated anchorage area would be required to be removed. We have some of the cleanest and most pristine intercoastal waterways in all of Florida, and we need to make sure that they remain that way in the future. The agency is working towards bringing these initiatives for board approval in May and June. That would be in the form of an interlocal agreement with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. And it would begin a process for this new board to quickly shape the course of redevelopment over the next 10 years. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council has completed similar work for other communities, including Riviera Beach, and has substantial experience working with local governments, regional governments, and have established great ability to gather public input, develop board comments and goals and strategies, and implement them into a plan that can represent all of the community. Some of our existing projects that I wanted to update you on include a redevelopment of our block redevelopment plan, which is shown above. This plan was approved by the CRA board after extensive public meetings, workshops, and reviews. The project plans have been completed and is now under review by the city's Development Services Department. One of tonight's agenda items will move forward with locating a new local business within this plan. The project is located on the northwest corner of one of the busiest intersections in the city, which is Broadway and Blue Heron. It's a starting point for establishing a new look and a development standard for future projects in the Broadway corridor. And this project will feature a new City of Riviera Beach sign built into a central water fountain. It will also feature new landscape improvements along the Broadway corridor, and improvements in conjunction with improvements to the old Dairy Bell building, where we hope to locate a new micro business. We will also update the parking lot. Currently, the parking lot has a very dangerous configuration, so we would actually add more parking and make it a safer condition for pedestrians, both visiting the Dairy Bell site and to our tenant, the Cash America.
Hold on one second, if we would just recognize that the mayor is on the dais at this time. Thank you.
This is a rendering of a potential concept for redevelopment of the northeast corner of Broadway and Blue Heron. The CRA purchased this property after it had remained vacant and empty for many years, and is part of our strategic effort to redevelop the Broadway at the most critical intersection. So we now control both sides of the north intersection, so the north side, both east and west side. I'll save most of my presentation because tonight we will be reviewing a resolution that would approve the architectural design services so that we can start to develop the plans, layouts, and elevations for this new project. But by redeveloping both of the corners, we think we can really start to establish a new look for Broadway that will hopefully help us attract new development that is similar. These initiatives will allow the board to move forward with an updated vision and continue our efforts to realize redevelopment. And we'll be incorporating most of these into the interlocal agreement with Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council as our partner. And we'll conduct many public meetings and interviews with stakeholders to ensure that as much public comment and opportunity to provide input to the plan is made possible before the board considers final approval. And that completes my brief presentation and update on our current CRA plan update.
Okay. Do we have any public comment cards for this item?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Anyone from the board?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I'm
Could
just
you pull your
curious.
mic down?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Evans, does that have to go through the Planning and Zoning Board, that northwest corner?
The northwest corner, I believe, will be an administrative approval. We're affecting less than 50% of the project. We're not building any new buildings, so it's just an update to an existing parking lot. So I believe it's an administrative approval with Development Services.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I just want to commend the CRA for taking on the Intercoastal Blue Water Quality and Enhancement Project. It's something that, as you might know, has been near and dear to my heart and in the hearts of all the people, particularly on Singer Island, but of all the people in Riviera Beach, because the diving under the Blue Heron Bridge is known internationally, and we have to keep that water clean and pure and keep it as a best site that people come from all over the world to dive. So I'm happy to see that you're taking this on.
Anyone else? Okay, I look forward to being able to go a little more into detail when we have our upcoming retreat and be able to start off pretty good and move forward with the vision for Broadway as well as these other projects that we're looking at doing. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Anyone else? All right, item number 4.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency approving the selection of Top Shelf Event LLC as a recipient of Emerging Microbusiness Entrepreneurship Program, authorizing the negotiations of a grant agreement with Top Shelf to participate in the Microbusiness Entrepreneurship Program, including a lease to operate a business in the agency's building at 2615 Broadway, providing an effective date.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Evans?
Good evening. Andre Lewis, our CRA project manager, will present this project. I just did want to make one clarification. The lease agreement on page 3 of the memo is listed as providing various rents that were established in the RFP, and we actually are correcting it. We're changing the numbers to what was reflected in the original RFP. And Andre, I just wanted to make the board aware of that. We're actually reducing the rent that would be due during the first 3 years, and Andre will touch on that in his presentation.
All right, good evening,
Good
Commissioners.
evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Okay, so we're going to discuss the results from the RFP 2018-06, the Emerging Microbusiness Entrepreneurship Program. So the purpose is we're seeking approval to award Top Shelf Gourmet with the Emerging Microbusiness Entrepreneurship Program to operate their business out of the CRA-owned property located at 2615 Broadway, as formerly known as the Dairy Vet. So to give you a little bit of background, back in December of 2018, the board provided approval to publish RFP 2018-06. February of 2019, the evaluation committee completed its initial review, and the top 3 candidates were chosen. So in March of 2019, interview sessions were commenced and completed, and the committee ranked Top Shelf as the #1 proposer. So introducing Ashley Walker, she's the owner and operator of Top Shelf Gourmet. She's born and raised right here in Riviera Beach, graduate of Suncoast High School, Florida State, and Tennessee State University. So she wants to introduce you to Riviera's Juicery. As you can see, the proposed menu, it has a healthy option approach. You can see smoothies, fruit ice pops, fruit bowls, signature lemonades, salads, sandwiches, spiral mangoes, and there are other items. So the program requirements, the grantee and the agency will execute a grant agreement for a term of 3 years. The grantee will complete the business readiness workshop as well as attain the certification, and the agency and the grantee will draft a proposed layout for the interior of the building. The agency will publish a bid document to complete the rehab of the building, and at that point, the agency and the grantee will execute a lease agreement. The grantee will complete a semi-annual performance report during the life of the grant program, and this will indicate if the business is underperforming, on target, or exceeding its forecasted goals. So this is the slide that Mr. Evans alluded to earlier. So the first 6 months, there will be no rent. The remaining 6 months, the rent will be $400 a month. And then at the end of year 2, we will evaluate year 2 as opposed to year 1. If the revenue has increased 15% or higher, we will increase the rent to $550, and that will be capped through the life of the grant program. Questions?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
You might have answered this, and I apologize if you have. And how long is the grant program for? Is it
It's a 3-year
3
term.
years? Is what I thought. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Ms. Lewis, the business readiness program, is that the one that's offered now that the CRA partners with?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The next class, Ms. Walker was notified, will be May of next month. Next month, I believe the 28th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That would be the first section, yeah.
Can you give me an idea between perhaps you or maybe Mr. Evans, what is the $35,000 in improvements? What does that actually mean, if you can kind of give some specifics?
Okay. The 35,000, and previous to this, we had an inspector give us a mock-up of all the improvements that needed to be done. So we're talking about the floors, the shelving, some dollars would go towards the stucco, improvement of the stucco, painting, so on and so forth.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Will those wall units remain? Wall air conditioning units?
No, we're going to remove those wall units and replace them with, and that's a part of the 35,000.
Okay, I believe that's the overhead utilities. Are we looking to put utilities underground?
Yes, we are. So as a part of the block redevelopment, we're going to be putting those utilities on the ground, and we're going to be removing all those poles that are in front of the dairy well currently.
Is the outside seating provided in this $35,000 improvement, or is that just for aesthetics in this presentation?
It could be. It could be. The outside seating only calls for minor, small chairs and tables. So.
Okay, and was there a study done on what the market rent is for that place?
Not recently, no.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The renovation that's actually going into the building, is there any cost can be paid by the candidate that will receive this award? Are they paying anything of this $32,000 build out?
Well, the candidate is going to. She has notified us that she has $5,000 in savings available to add to what we're already contributing, and she also has equipment such as freezers and prep tables in storage, ready to go.
So with this micro business entrepreneurial program, emerging program, we're trying to develop and grow this young business into being a developing business in the community. After this term of 3 years, what happens with that business? Do they renew after that time frame?
Well, at that point, we would come back to the board and give the board the option of if we want the business to continue to thrive within that space or move to another space
Madam Chair?
close by within the city.
Yes.
Okay. So
I think
Let Mr. Evans give you a little background on how this even came up, and that will probably answer
Yes,
your
ma'am.
question. Okay.
when we were looking at reusing this building, the board directed us to try and use it as a space to grow new businesses. So the current proposal that is before you is to allow this business to enter into this site, develop her business, her brand, towards then relocating to another site so that we could then use that site for another micro business. So our goal is to every 3 years, or as the board determines, try and grow and establish a new micro business.
thank you. So that was my question. If we're looking to develop this business, are we going to require that this individual uses her capital into the renovations when possibly if we're going to put another business in the next 3 years there, shouldn't we allow for that business to develop and grow and let them use the capital to build and market their business as opposed to renovating a building that we're going to be taking back in 3 years? Because now that's not really building an actual entrepreneurial program. That's not building a business within the community. That's allowing for them to build and renovate the building that we're going to be using, which is beneficial for the city. But I really want to actually build our businesses in the community. So allowing for them to use the capital, because we have other businesses that are failing that don't have the capital that's needed to actually sustain. So that $5,000 that she has in savings should be used to continue to sustain the business for the next 3 years if we're looking to keep her there.
Madam Chair?
Just my feedback.
I think that it's important that they bring their own equipment to the project, which we're requiring. If the board wanted to increase the amount of the build-out by an additional $5,000 to cover some of the structural or things that countertops perhaps that might need to be installed, then we could do that.
I'm sorry, I'll follow up, Madam Chair. The $32,000 that they have available that the city is going to be contributing, that is for the development. Have the numbers already been researched that that'll be sufficient to do the build-outs needed for this business?
Yes, as I said, stated earlier, we did have an inspector to give us a mock-up and we added probably 25 to 35% to each number to kind of give us sufficient padding for later on if the other things arrive or come up. So.
Madam Chair, were you finished, Mr. Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman.
I have a question. Is this is something that you're doing for the first time? There is nothing like this that you ever done with this before?
That's correct. This is a brand new program.
So you're looking to do this so everybody gets this type of build out like this? 32,000, 35,000 to start, give them a building. Everybody who does this program gets this type of layout?
Well, this one is custom designed just for this space because we own this very small commercial space. So in 3 years, if that business owner moves on and we have a new micro business to move in, we would offer a similar type improvement. But the majority of the $30,000 is actually to bring the building up to standard. So when we move a new building, a new business into that space, it will cost significantly less. But right now, the site's in disrepair, so we need to, and we own the property, so we need to improve the building.
So I'm sorry, Madam Chair, follow up.
You have the
So
floor.
there's only, you're going to do this for this one business, and then that means that in 3 years you do it for another business in the same spot. So you're doing maybe 3 businesses in 10 years?
Yes, that's the design of the program.
Are you saying about the $30-some thousand, or are you just saying new businesses coming in?
I'm saying $35,000
30-something
every
every
3
time.
years. That's
No,
the first time.
it's not. Just the first time to get the building up to code. They're not going to specifically make that place for this business. They're just going to get because it's been closed for a long time, they just have to do some work to bring it up to code, and then the business comes in, and if there's another business that comes in that's doing something totally different, the expectation is that they would need to provide their own things, or we're talking about putting
Yes,
money
the
in?
expectation is that if in 3 years, if we move a new business in, the grant would be somewhere in the range of about $5,000 just to help them move into the new space, because the building would already be repaired and complete.
So it's not being renovated for this specific business. So it's just generic so that others can come in.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the possibility or looking at the replication of this program. How feasible is it to replicate this? And if you're only going to do one every 3 years, I mean, how feasible is that for business? I mean, for a program where you just do one every 3 years?
Madam Chair.
Hold on, did you want to answer that, or?
Well, when we were going through the workshops to try and identify the future plans for this whole block, that was when it was decided that we wanted to keep the building and try and find a micro business to move in. And although it is only for one business, we felt it was important to write a specific program so that it would be a fair process that we could both allow multiple businesses to apply for, rank them, and then move them in potentially to the building once approved by the board. We could, as we acquire more property in the future, replicate this program to try and bring new sites for micro businesses.
Follow up, Madam Chair, just one last question. So there is no study in terms of market rate for that property, because we're looking at $400 a month and then $550 a month for the next 2 years, and there is nothing that tells you what the market rate of that property for rent is?
The previous tenant to the site paid between $1,400 and $1,700 during the extent of the lease, and they expressed to us that the high lease rate was part of the problem of why they're unable to succeed. Additionally, because it's a micro business, it's a new startup, we wanted to make sure that the rent was quite low to allow them the opportunity to grow their business, market it, and expand in the future.
Madam Chair?
Hold on, Councilwoman Botel?
So I was pretty much going to make the same comments that Mr. Evans made. It was based on the availability of that space not necessarily. It was not a program that came out of a desire to grow micro businesses. It was a program that came out of a desire to utilize that space. And one good way to utilize that space was to use it as an incubator for micro businesses. Now, I think that Mr. Evans has hit on something important, and that is if we did happen to have other spaces available, I think that we might want to look into using them perhaps to continue this program at other sites in the city, to try to expand the entrepreneurship opportunities for people in the city. But the reason this particular space was chosen is just that we had it and we wanted to keep it. We didn't want to destroy it. It has some historic value, and we wanted to make sure that it was being put to good purpose.
All right, Councilman Lawson.
Thank you. The rent was on the proposal $750, and it was reduced down to $400, which is on the new proposal, with 6 months free rent and then build-out costs. So based on market value, that actually is very affordable for an incubator program, an entrepreneurial program in that area. So knowing that that rate is actually affordable for the resident, I think the 6 months plus the rent is actually a fair price for them, and then keeping it at that $550 if they actually have growth. So that number is very fair based on what you guys have put in place. I'm not sure if you guys have done any rental studies recently, but just based on what I've seen, that is a fair price with the free rent as well.
Anyone else? Do we have any public comment cards?
We have one public comment card, Bonnie Larson.
Okay.
Bonnie Larson, the $35,000 we're talking about putting into it, is that grant money or is that money from the CRA?
We'll have them answer as soon as you
Okay,
finish.
we will answer. Okay. Couple of things. It would not be in conflict with the new restaurant across the street from it, La Granja. They're not doing well. These one-way streets are killing businesses in Riviera Beach. We talked about that before they went in. They're killing it. They can't get any business from the north end. You can't, because you have to go past it, you have to go down Blue Heron, you have to go around a couple blocks just to get, it's not happening for them or for any other restaurant there. And the same thing will be with this building. It used to be Dairy Bell. Top Shelf Gourmet. Okay, so she's going to be doing juicing and everything. And yes, she needs her own equipment, her freezer, her whatever. She'll take it to the next place, so of course she needs that. We also need to do tenting of the building. It's got lots of termites, it's got mold, it's got all kinds of problems over there. Painting, it's got the window unit, air conditioner. I think there's only one over there. So I think the whole inside will have to be gutted. It's not a big structure, but the whole inside I think was going to have to be structured. So that will be money that we'll have to put out, but we'd have to put that out for anybody. Market study, you said no market study. We should always do a market study, and I know that the Dairy Bell paid between $1,400 and $1,700 in rent. I know they paid that, and that was when business was falling off. I know that was huge rent. Is candidate paying anything? No, she shouldn't be paying anything because she's just there temporarily. She's only there for 3 years. So no, she shouldn't be paying anything. She takes her own equipment in there, she takes her own equipment out of there. Now, we have to be very clear on that 3-year plan. At the end of the 3 years, is she definitely out? You have to be very clear on that. If she's definitely out, don't give her hope that she's going to stay beyond the 3 years. If that's what you want to do, is keep rotating businesses in there. That needs to be very specific. The second person, why are you giving them $5,000 to move in? Because by then the building will be in tip-top shape. Also, on top of that building is still that signage. That's a wind hazard, big sign up there. That needs to go. That needs to go a couple years ago. It's still up there. So it's a very, very reasonable rent. Nothing for the first 6 months. 6 months, $400. You can't find anything anywhere for $400. It's a very small space, but still, you can't get any. And she's going to complete this business readiness class before she does anything. How are you going to determine if the business has grown? Who's going to determine that? It's grown 15%. She's got her own books. How are you going to ever determine that if the rent goes up from $400 to $550? Need to be specific about that, too. So a lot of work needs to be done on that business, on that building before she ever moves in. But be specific so she doesn't come 3 years and then say, I'm here and that's it. And where is she going to go then? No other space like that in Riviera Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, do you have anything?
Yes, that wouldn't be a grant. The $30,000 was a direct investment in our own building. The $5,000, if we increase it, could be in the form of a grant to allow her some sort of additional build-out moving costs.
Okay.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Evans, and I guess I'm not having the best time trying to reach the city's development services website to look at the zoning map, but just out of curiosity, what use is permitted there right now? Do you know?
It's downtown core mixed use, which allows a variety of uses, residential and commercial, both.
Madam Chair?
Are you done, Councilman McCoy?
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Lawson?
I tend to agree with Ms. Larson in regards to the tenant not having to pay anything to move in, just because that location, once the actual building is done, where we replace that CRA building across the street and do that water fountain, they'll have a lot of walking traffic. But the tenant that's going in now, the current business, won't be able to see that because the building won't be done, or the water fountain won't be done for probably about 1 to 2 years. So to realistically see some of that walking traffic to come from the new CRA building won't be there, so it's going to be difficult for her. So having to contribute to the building, I don't think that the new business that's coming in for this first time should have to contribute right now, if it can be done within the budget to actually renovate that building to what the city needs, and then allowing for us to be an incubator for this small business that's coming in.
Is the expectation for the person to put up some money, other than bringing in our own things? Is that what you were saying, Mr. Lawson?
I'm sorry?
You're under the impression the tenant is going to, the business owner is going to have to put in money. Are you talking about other than her refrigerators and those things?
Well, based on the tenant candidate having $5,000 in their savings, that would have to be something going towards the actual building or the build out of the building, based on what's this proposal actually says.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the expectation for each one of them coming up? I mean, those that come behind her as well?
The expectation is they bring their own equipment and utilize the space. So if they want to make changes, if they don't like it as it's existing, then they would pay for those changes. In this case, we can add, if you amend the resolution by approval motion, then you could add an additional $5,000, which we would allow for those costs. But that could be an allowance. So if you want to do further changes above that, then that would be on the.
But was that in the $5,000 that was mentioned? Is this something that we asked her to do, or she just said that she had $5,000 that she could use if she needed to?
It was her expectation that that's how much it would cost her to move in and complete the interior.
Okay, because that wasn't a part of the conversation when we did that, was for them to add additional funds for each person to move in. I thought with the not having to have any rent and those benefits would kind of, even out the score for the rest of the stuff in terms of moving in. But that would be something the board, if that's something the board would like to do and change, but that wasn't the thought process at the very beginning when we started this. But by all means, if you all want to do that, I would just say that we do it and be consistent and making sure that each person that comes in has the same benefit. But that wasn't the idea behind it when we initially discussed it and put it out. Correct? Yes.
Well, the thought process behind it was that the CRA would exhaust all of our funds that we're putting up. And the hope is any of that $5,000, if spent, which we're going to work to ensure that we would exhaust all our funds before she would have to kick anything. But if she kicked in anything, it would be to equipment that she could take when she moves to another location. But those funds were earmarked to bring the building back up to standards.
Madam Lawson, Councilman Lawson.
So that was the question. So as long as it's material and things that she can actually take with her, I think that's fair with that $5,000, as long as it's not going to renovations of the building. Because if we're going to expect her to leave in five years, we don't want her trying to install a hood or things that she will not be able to take with her. Are we going to be hearing from the candidate at all?
Yes, believe she's here.
Is
Yeah,
it
she's here. If
Madam Chair?
you'd like to
Is
hear.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you? I'm Ashley Walker. I'm the owner of
Good
Top
evening.
Shelf Gourmet. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. So most of what you heard is correct. We plan to come in and activate the building. We propose something that is going to contribute to the health and wellness of all Riviera Beach residents. And so along with our healthy menu, our soup, salad, sandwiches, smoothies, our specialty lemonade, we're going to go in and try to make our products as healthy as possible. We don't intend to use too much sugar over here. It's going to be a really good thing here. In addition to the actual menu items, we propose a collaboration with the CRA to do some community programs. We want to do some things in yoga and meditation. So it's not just a building, it's going to be a movement. And so I'm happy to be here, happy to be the front runner for this opportunity. And I'm here for any questions that you have right now.
Well, I have a question. Will the top shelf popsicles be a part of this?
Absolutely. So we'll have the cart. So we'll brand the cart. We already have a push cart right now. So we're going to brand the cart with the new brand. And so one of my plans is to kind of have some of my high schoolers at Inlet Grove that kind of operate the cart off-site, maybe somewhere else in the city. And it'll be a way to kind of teach them about entrepreneurship too. So I'll use that as in little programs. I work at Inlet Grove. So I'll be able to have some students come over and help them. And they already do run the cart for me for a different event. So yeah, they'll definitely have a chance to be a part of this process, but we'll have them.
Welcome, and I thank you for being one of our first choices, and you'll be able to start off a movement, as you said,
Absolutely.
for others that come behind you. So thank you, and I wish you
This is
the
an
best.
opportunity where I cannot lose.
Yes.
Trust me, with the things that you have put in place, I've already had 3 years. I've been bootstrapping from the beginning to get here. I've positioned myself to be able to submit the proposal by myself on my own might, my own will, collaborating with other community leaders, and to be the front runner. I'm like, oh my God, like it's happening, you know. So to see this roll out is amazing. I've been a part of this community, and I intend to give back in a miraculous way. You guys will be talking about the contributions in a grand way for years to come.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anyone else from the board?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
just congratulations. Is my mic on? Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I definitely want to commend CRA for this candidate as well. They selected a homegrown individual that went off to school, came back home, and is trying to do a business here in the city. So this is a story that we could definitely stand on. So thank you, Ms. Ashley, and congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to say congratulations.
Yes. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
No.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries with Commissioner Lanier dissenting.
Item number 5.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing the execution of a contract for professional architectural services with REG Architects to provide architectural design and construction documents for the redevelopment of agency property located at 2600 Broadway in the amount not to exceed $246,250, plus a 9% contingency for a total of $268,412, directing and authorizing the chairman and executive director to take such action as shall be necessary and consistent to carry out the intent and desires of the agency, providing an effective date.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Evans?
Thank you. Andre, if you're just trying to pull up the presentation, it's at the end of the previous one I gave. It's right at the bottom. This resolution is to approve REG Architects and Engineering Services. This is to help us embark upon the redesign of our new building that we've acquired on the corner of Broadway and Blue Heron. As I mentioned earlier, this project is a major redevelopment potential because it's right on our busiest intersection. And this building, unfortunately, has been vacant for many years. So this is our opportunity to redo the building. We intend to move in the CRA offices into this location. And we would, in addition to that, we would like to include several other uses. Just waiting for the presentation to come up, but I'll keep going. As a part of this process, we're proposing that the architect take this board and the public through public design workshops to look at various concept renderings, elevations, and interior layouts for the building. This includes approval of final exterior and interior elevations and floor plans. The architect would then, once they have this board's approval, submit those to the City of Riviera Beach for site plan approval. They would also assist us in project bidding and construction administration. So they would be able to stay with the project from the very beginning of the initial design all the way through to completion of the build-out. The site is proposed to be used for new CRA office space, a new commercial space that could be located on the ground floor. We think that this is a really good key opportunity to expand the sidewalks, create a small outdoor space with some tables and chairs, and really give a new pedestrian-oriented type vision for the future of Broadway with small outdoor space for a small retailer, a cafe, a sandwich shop, as this board determines in the future. We also would like to include a new small business incubator and open office suites. The space has over 25,000 square feet of available to us, both on the ground floor and the second floor. And this would allow us to provide a small business incubator. It would also allow us to provide office space for small entrepreneurs independently. And we've been in discussions with co-locating an additional satellite office with CareerSource so that our residents don't have to travel so far to one of their Palm Beach County locations. They could just travel to a satellite office, which could be located in this facility, along with workforce development offices. And we've also had discussions with the Black Business Investment Corporation, who would also like to co-locate into this building, which will really allow us to enhance our small business incubator by having CareerSource, entrepreneur growth, and workforce development all in one open location. So that's the vision for the development of the project, and the architect will be with the project from the very beginning all the way through completion, including starting with workshops with this board and finalizing with our ribbon cutting at the end. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I know he would like to show the presentation. And if you all would like to, if you want to see the presentation, what we can do is come back to this item once they have gotten that up and running, and we can continue with the rest. Everyone has it in front of them? Mm-hmm. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Madam Chair, it's at the back, it's at the end of the previous presentation. It's the last two pages of the previous presentation.
All right. So do we have anyone that have any questions? We'd like for the
Madam
public to
Chair.
see it. Yes.
About how long are we talking? Year and a half, 2 years?
Yes, we think it will be about from the beginning of design to bidding the project and construction. We think it will be a 2-year process before we can move in.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Evans, have we already compared the cost between taking it off our tax roll and using rental income versus what we're paying in rent now at the BB&T building?
Currently, we pay about $100,000 rent per year at the BB&T. The long-term view for this project would be to redevelop the site, move our offices in, and include some private businesses. So it won't be entirely off the tax roll. So some of those private businesses, how the tax assessor does it, is they calculate the square footage of those private businesses, and then they charge taxes on that. For example, at Marina Village, we have several kiosks that we rent out for parasailing and water sports. So those individual businesses are required to pay taxes. So although the tax rolls would be reduced by the space that the CRA offices take up, as a portion of the total building, it wouldn't be an entire reduction. Additionally, the building's been reduced in value due to its state of condition. So the tax value of it existing currently is fairly low compared to what would be if we improved the structure.
And follow up, Madam Chair. Will this be a permanent move for the CRA office, or what are our plans? I know we had a conversation previously, but for a 5 or 10-year plan for this building, and then
Yes.
the renovations as actually being rendered, or what the engineering firm is actually putting together.
My vision would be that this is a semi-permanent location. Our goal is to buy the building, redevelop it, since it's been sitting vacant for so long, and enhance it. And if we are 5 to 7 years down the road and we've been very successful, then I would look to do that again. And rather than keeping our tax dollars tied up in that building, I would then move on to another building that needs to be redeveloped.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Do we have any other comments? And the total amount to renovate this particular property, and, in terms of what type of work needs to be done on the inside?
The building needs to be completely renovated. So the first thing we would do is do a complete interior demolition. So we would have to knock down all the existing walls, and then, so it's a total rebuild inside. The structure, the bones of the building are quite good. And it's also, since it was built between 1950 and 1960, I believe it's 1951, it was actually built in the way that our new codes are now designed. So the new zoning codes that the city adopted about 6 or 7 years ago promoted putting the buildings closer to the street. This promotes safety. It promotes more pedestrian usage of the sidewalks in the surrounding areas. So this building is already built in accordance with the new zoning principles that the city's adopted, and so we wanted to keep it and preserve it.
Okay, and how much are we estimating it would take to renovate the complete?
The structure renovation we're estimating to be approximately $1.9 million.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? We have public comment cards?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have 2.
Okay.
Bonnie Larson, followed by Horace Towns.
Bonnie Larson, I believe we paid $3.2 million for this building, and my question is, why did we pay over the asking price? I really would like an answer to that. I'm very curious about that. The building, when it was constructed, was not 1951. It was very avant-garde. I like the building because you have the overhead parking, the overhead there, so whenever you went there, when it was a bank, you didn't get wet. It was very nice. No place else in Riviera Beach had that facility. It was built for a bank, however. So there are 2 doors, one on the north side, one on the south side. There might be one on the east side. I'm not sure about that. So when we talk about what's going to go into that building, this board needs to decide, since you're now the ones in charge. You need to decide what's going to go in there. We talked about how many parking spots are over there, because I think we have 18 CRA employees. So we're talking about a lot of people here. We're talking about putting the CRA people over there, new commercial businesses over there. We're talking about a lot of people going over there, and there's no parking. Can you park on top of that overhead? That's a question. The whole interior of it, I'm going to suggest that all of you, since it is a CRA property, that all of you take a tour of the inside so you can see what we own, what it looks like now, and the possibilities. It's much easier if you go into a building and you can see how this is going to work out. Because you got to think, if you're putting multiple companies in there, they're each going to need their own space, their own lock, their own electric, their own air conditioning, their own everything. It's a very complicated thing. So I think we need to zero in on exactly what's going to go in there. And I think you'll have a better feel for that after you take a tour of the inside of the building. Right now, there's mold. It's been moldy for years over there. There's asbestos. The windows, I heard, are leaking. The electric all needs to be torn out. There's a lot of work needs to be done over there. So we're paying $100,000, wow, at the BB&T building currently for the CRA. That's astronomical. Okay, we're talking about eating, sandwich shops, whatever. Now we're getting all that stuff. Who wants to eat right on Broadway? Nobody wants to eat on Broadway. We got fumes coming by from all the trucks and stuff. We have to be realistic about what we're going to do here. Incubator businesses, again, the same thing. You got to figure out how all those individuals are going to have their individual space inside there. So we need to zero in and get a real concrete feel for what needs to go in there. We bring in other Riviera Beach entities over there. That would be much easier, but there's no parking. And if you have all these other individual companies, ooh, that's I wouldn't want that job to figure that out. Knockout walls, yeah, I'm predicting it's going to be more than 1.9 million. We already paid 3.2. We should have built a whole new building somewhere instead and built it our way. But, oh, yeah, and we talked about bus stop. A couple years ago, we talked about bus stops, and anybody redeveloping should have put a bus stop carve out in there. That's a bad place, because the bus stop stops right there, right after Blue Heron. So if you're coming from the island, you're coming off the island, you're coming off the bridge, you go to make a right, there's the bus. And now we only have 2 lanes. It's a big headache with that bus. So what we talked about doing before was new businesses carve out a space for the bus to drive into so it doesn't impede traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, can you, well, hold on, let's do the next card and then we'll
Forest
come back.
Towns.
Horace Towns, Riviera Beach. I just had
Good
two
evening.
questions. Good evening to the CRA board. I was looking at item 5, and I wanted the council to kind of have this in there. I guess consider this in the future. With all the redevelopment that we have slated in Riviera Beach, you know, we're going to constantly be going out to these different architectural firms. And I'm looking at a fee here of $246 or whatever, and the amount not to exceed $246. My question was, how often do we use this particular company? And second, RGE is a Hispanic minority business enterprise. My question is, how to work this? Do we have a rotation of vendors? Or as far as the architectural firms in Riviera Beach, are there any African-American minority businesses in Riviera Beach or in the local area? Because with the amount of development and redevelopment that we're going to have coming up, that we're often saying that we're trying to make sure local participation and you have minority businesses participating. I just want to evaluate what companies are participating and getting a share of this development. So that's a fair question I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Yes, the cost to purchase the building was $2.28 million. We negotiated with the property owner for about 4 months, and the appraised value was $2.2 million. So we purchased it very close to the appraised value. This is the first time that the CRA board has utilized REG architects. They're being utilized as a part, they have a continuing services contract with the City of Riviera Beach. The City of Riviera Beach has other continuing services contracts. On the previous project that we were discussing earlier, which is the block redevelopment, we utilized Harvard Jolly, which is the other architectural firm that the city has continuing services contract with. So we are cycling through a different company, and this is the first time CRA has worked with them. And I just wanted to add that the build-out of this project will utilize a sheltered market program. So we'll identify the various different bid packages that can be done by local contractors, and we'll put those out separately under a special program that's designed to try and make sure that we have as much local participation in the build-out as possible.
Okay, thank you. That's in the public comment for this item.
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. Do we have any other comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 6.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency authorizing staff to solicit proposals from Street Art Revolution, Fondo Studios LLC, and Big D Graphics for public artwork and painting services at designated properties within the CRA district, providing an effective date.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Evans?
Our project manager, Andre Lewis, will present.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Board. Today, we're going to talk about the CRA District Public Art and Branding Project. So this will be round 2 of our approval request. So just a little bit of background about our public art and branding project. Back in April of 2018, the board approved contracts with 3 artists to complete several art projects within the CRA district. June of 2018, the board provided final approval for 9 art designs to be installed within the CRA district. To date, we have 5 murals which were installed on Singer Island, 2 in the Marina Village, with a decorative woven fence art design. And we have the piece de resistance is the one on the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway, which is, you know, our octopus and our diver, which we're very proud of. So I'm going to go through the new proposed sites. The first one is the wall located on southeast corner of Blue Heron and Lake Drive. The second site will be the retaining wall located on the southeast corner of Blue Heron and Lake Drive. The third will be the west side wall of the building located at 1261 East Blue Heron Boulevard, and it can be seen right next to the gas station there. The next one is the south side of the building located at 1530 Broadway, and the mural will be seen on Broadway as you're going north. We also would like to install a mural at our community garden wall, which can be seen at the rear of the property. Also, at the north side wall of the building located at 1601 Broadway, and this mural will be seen as you go south on Broadway. And finally, at 1201 East Blue Heron Boulevard on the northeast side of the building. So our installation plan, the staff will secure licensing agreements from all the business owners. Currently, we have verbal agreements from the owners, but we need to secure licensing agreements. Staff will also request financial and design proposals from the qualified artists. And at that point, we will submit 2 design options to the board for final approval. Questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
will we be using the same artists that we used the last time, or will we be opening it up to different ones? And will people in the communities to be affected have any say in the selection of the artists?
Okay. So the goal is to use the artists that we were able to procure through the first RFQ, and the vision is to bring the 2 design options to the board for you to vote on for each site.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have any public comment?
We have one public comment card, Madam Chair. Mary Beth Coffer.
My name is Mary Beth Kofer. I live at 2640 Lakeshore Drive. I'm kind of disappointed to hear that it doesn't sound like we're going to have community involvement in the selection of the murals this go-round. I participated last time, and I found it fascinating to hear the stories about the artists, why they were proposing what they were proposing, and also to meet some of my fellow neighbors and to hear what they thought about the art. So I hope you will rethink that, and you will include community comment in what goes forward to the board, and you just don't bring your 2 favorites. I was also a little bit disappointed last time in that we didn't use more local artists and we didn't have more community involvement in the actual painting process. I think there would be some opportunities for creative young people to become involved in doing some of the painting work with the artists. Now, it would take an artist that was willing to do that, and it would take young people who could take direction, but I think that is very much possible. I just entered into the record some photos of what they call 3D mural art. When I lived in Hong Kong, There were two. One was called a Trick Eye Museum, and the other one was called a 3D Art Museum. And they were fascinating because you could go in these places, it would tell you where to stand, and you could take your picture, and you looked like you were really part of it. Some of them were a little more complicated because they required a forward wall and a backward wall. But others were things that were just simple, where you're standing in front of a wall, and maybe you have angel wings behind you, and you get to stand there. Or you see an elephant coming out of a picture, or a monkey doing a selfie coming out of a picture frame. I think there's some opportunities in Riviera Beach to include more fun-type murals that would be family-friendly, and we could develop some sort of a driving or walking mural guide throughout the city of Riviera Beach, and have that be part of our claim to fame, just like Phil Foster Park is, just like the water sports are, just like the beach is. We need something maybe a little bit different that sets us apart from our neighboring communities. So again, I hope you will have community involvement in the selection of the murals that come forward to the board, and I hope you'll enjoy looking at these pictures. I apologize for the poor quality because I was running out of magenta ink in my printer, but again, thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. That's in the public comment for this item. Do we have any comments from the board?
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Go ahead, and then Ms. Lanier, and then Ms. Botel.
Madam Chair, do we have the opportunity to add public comment for this?
Typically, talking about from the public? Now, from out here or up here? Talking about from the public?
Yes, I mean.
Oh, you're talking about to select the design? Okay.
Yes, we could have a process like we did the previous time to have a couple of public art design workshops. It would require us having a small contract with the artist to come and facilitate that, but which we could do that under my administrative authority if that was your direction. And then once the public had provided that input and we bring the options to the board, you could then approve the larger contracts for the actual installation.
Ms. Botel.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
I was going to make the same suggestion. I think it was a great process last time. I agree with Ms. Gopher. It was great to have the community involved. The meetings were small, the groups were small, but they might get a little, now that people have seen the work, now that people have seen the result, we might get a better turnout. And it was great to have members of the community work together on this project. And I love some of these. I hope that we have a chance to at least consider some of these things that look interactive. You know, you get the feeling that you're a part of the picture. So I like that.
And the process that we did before, I certainly think that's something we should follow, because I know initially we didn't start out doing that way, and we had some complaints from the public not being involved, and that's how we arrived to that. So I think we need to continue with the process that we used from the first few murals that we did, where people had an opportunity to vote on it, and I know we had it at different events and having the meetings as well. So we'll need to keep that component in there for this particular item. And I definitely love those. That's really neat. I have to take a look at that and might do some of that myself. But they're very nice, very nice. So, any other comments from the board?
Yes, just one.
Yes.
I really like the idea of giving people sort of a little map of the Riviera Beach public art works, you know, so that when people come to visit, it might make us another destination. Philadelphia, for example, one of my hometowns, has many murals, public art, and you can go to each one, and I think would just be a really another great thing for people to come to Riviera Beach to see.
You stole my thunder. So that is the long-term goal, and we do have plans, and I'm formulating that. I wanted us to have a catalog of art, so that when we do that sort of scavenger hunt, especially tying in the whole social media piece, I think that would just blow it up. So we do have plans for future
Follow-up.
Yes.
And I think at some time in the past, we asked that, and this is perhaps a city issue and not a CRA issue, but I believe that we asked staff to look into the requirement that any new construction in the city have a public art component. Now, if that's something the CRA could help with, that would be great. Or if it's something that we need to take up again as city council, we should take a look at that, because Palm Beach Gardens, for example, has that as a piece of any new project, any new construction project has to have some public art component to it. And I think that would be a good thing for us to do.
Can you pass those back down for me from the mayor? Any other comments from the board?
Madam
Mayor?
Chair?
Yes.
Just curious, Mr. Lewis, there's going to be some maintenance in this, right?
There is. They're low. It's low maintenance, especially the mural that we did in the corner of Blue Heron and Broadway. We added a coat, a clear coat, and that keeps the art from kind of deteriorating over time. And also, the licensing agreement gives us the autonomy to, if we needed to touch it up or what have you, that's something we could do, and we could reach out to the artists. And, they would assess and give us a nominal proposal if that to be the case.
And how many again were we looking at? Because I see up to 268,000. How many murals is that?
268,000.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong item, but I was looking at a different number. But how many murals are we talking?
7 for this round.
And we have a budget of $120,000 for this project.
And then that's not inclusive of the maintenance, is what I'm asking.
No, the maintenance would be, if they needed maintenance this year, then those dollars would be for that. But until we design the murals and negotiate the contracts, we don't really know how much they're going to cost. Some murals are much more than others. So depending on the outcomes of the design process, and those contracts, of course, will come back before this board for your review and consideration.
So, Madam Follow-up, Madam Chair. So in total, what we did last year, was that last year? Did we finish that first round last year?
Mm-hmm.
What do we see? I mean, because there's only so many walls we can paint murals on, and I mean, in the forecast, where are we going beyond 2019? Is this something that we're looking to do in, I guess, the 2019 fiscal year? Is this something you're asking for in the budget?
In the new budget, I would not be asking for new murals. I believe although it's completely up to the board, but we've identified most of the prime locations for murals. So this was the round where we came back and we had a look at where did we miss the best spots. So I would be looking at this to be the only implementation for the next several years.
Do you have a roundabout cost from what it was from 2018 year?
On average, the wall murals, we're looking at about between 7,000 to 10,000, depending on how much detail. I know we're talking about doing some 3D stuff, so that might fall in the higher range. I'm not sure. I want to give our artists an opportunity to give us some proposals on that. So I don't want
7,000 to 10,000 each.
Yeah. On the low, the smaller ones were around 5, but on average between 7 to 10.
Well,
the ones that were more detailed, larger in scale, when we're talking about the wall. But when you look at Marina Village and what was done at on the water tank, that was much more extensive. I believe the painting itself was around 30,000 for the mural itself. So.
Right. Then we had this other component that did something with the fencing outside of the marina.
Yes, that was around 3,000, 2,500, 3,000.
Are we looking to do that again this time around?
No, this is strictly art murals.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question about the maintenance of it, because if we spend all this money on the murals and then, 8, 10 years from now, how is that going to be maintained? Or is it just for now. I'm just trying to think about what's going to happen in the future with those murals. I mean, you would pay a lot of money to get it done, and I have no problem with it. It's just the fact of how we're going to upkeep it and keep it where it looks like you want to take a picture in front of it.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We will be sure to include in future years a small reserve fund in our budget that would ensure that if, in case one of the murals, if something happened to it or it did incur some degradation for some reason, that we would have that money available to go ahead and repair it.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Are you finished, Ms. Lanier?
Yes, I'm not talking about like if somebody vandalized it. I'm just saying just wear and tear of, the atmosphere, the salt water, the sunshine, this is Florida.
We will budget for that, yes.
Mr. Lawson.
So, Mr. Evans, from my understanding that this is just a 2-year project that we're doing for these murals. The buildings are only contracted for 2 years to put these murals up. So the project is, after these 2 years, we can ask for renewal, or we'll have to repaint it to the original color, correct?
Yes, the owner agrees to keep the mural up for 2 years. So after that, they're not required to take it down, but they could decide after that point that they don't want the mural any longer. Of the owners that we've talked to from the first round of the mural project, they're extremely happy with it. So we anticipate that we will be having to touch these up in the future because we think that they're going to keep them long term.
So are we going to be budgeting? So we do budget for that long term if the owners do decide to keep them. But right now, we're only doing this project for 2 years based on the budget that we have now.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Are you finished, Councilman Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
The coating that you put on the one on Broadway and Blue Heron, can that not be put on all of them as a protective coating, yes?
Yes. Yes, it
Can we budget to put that kind of a protective coating on? And what will that protect against? I mean, excuse me, I don't want to get in the weeds on this. Never mind. It's okay.
Well,
I'm sure you can do.
The artist assured me that that protects against graffiti, the regular wear and tear,
Okay.
because it is in an area where it's a high traffic area.
Right.
So a lot of the chemicals coming from the cars over time could affect the art. So that's why it was
Okay.
used in that
In that
specific area.
But we could use it in other
We
areas too.
could definitely
Okay.
use
Thank
it in
you.
other areas, yes.
Okay, anyone else? All right, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Botel,
Yes.
Chair Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 7.
Spring Vibes event presentation.
Mr. Evans?
Yes, our event center coordinator, Keandra Knighton, is going to present a new event that we've developed. It's an enhancement of our previous movie night that we held at the Marina, and I asked her to come and present her concept for the new event. The first one is coming up soon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As he stated before, we have done this event multiple times, various different ways. So we have had Gulfstream Cinema, which was an event catered to adults only. It was 21 and up, and we featured different movie events such as Girls Trip and Get Out, which was very, very popular. We also did a huge kids one in the park where we featured Black Panther, and that was a huge, huge success. This one is going to be still catered to our adults. It's generated as a date night, night for singles, night for couples, nights for friends, anything of that nature. You can definitely come out. This event will take place on our promenade, and it will feature our new seawall removal. We will have a nice bar set up close by the water, as well as a huge LED TV screen. Where you will enjoy the movie Nobody's Fool. However, if you do not want to watch the movie, there will be other things that you can do, such as games. We will have available a spades competition for anyone that likes to play spades, dominoes, a variety of food trucks. We will have island-style food truck, which will provide Caribbean food, Lox Box, which will provide American-style food. City Sweets will be coming out with their Italian ice, and we will also have heirloom entrees and TNT crabs providing seafood. Again, it's a very, very exciting event. It is going to take place on Friday, starting at 7 p.m., and that's everything for the event. Very nice atmosphere. We're really excited to have it.
Okay. Comments from the board? Do we have any public comment cards for this item?
We have Barney Larson.
All right. Okay, so you're good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Do you need anything from us, Mr. Evans, or it's just a presentation?
Just a presentation. Hopefully, we'll see lots of the public come out and attend.
Okay. Item number 8.
CRA Retreat and New Housing Initiative discussion?
Mr. Evans?
Yes. Based on my discussions with the board, we've been expressed the need to do a retreat so we can spend time focusing on how to move the CRA forward on our existing projects. During our discussions, I also became evident that the city also needs to do several retreats. So tonight, I was going to propose some dates, but I believe the best course of action for the first retreat would be to provide this board, who also sits as the city council, status updates on all of our existing projects and some of the various programs that we've been trying to implement or in the progress of implementing. And I think a lot of the city departments could use that opportunity to do a status update. So I would propose tonight that I coordinate with the city to try and get a date that would work for the city staff and the CRA staff, and then we come to you with those dates for you to select at a future date so that we can, I do think the CRA needs to do its own independent retreat, but that could follow the first one, which would be sort of an overall general update on the status of the various city departments. At the future date, I did want to mention one that the CRA, we've started to develop a new housing program. We're looking at trying to partner with the private development community to try and enhance the redevelopment of some of our neighborhoods. There hasn't been a lot of new houses construction happening due to the market conditions. So we're trying to develop a new grant program that would allow the private market to build some affordable housing. What I would like to do at the future retreat also is to introduce the board to some of the efforts the CDC has been trying to make, and also spend more time working with the board to understand your priorities so that we can create that new program in a way that would meet your approval.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Evans, so this is pretty new. So if I was hearing you correctly, you're saying you want to coordinate our retreat with the city's retreat?
Yes. I'd like to do 2 retreats, and I know that as time permits, but I think that the first one should be a coordinated retreat with both the city to provide this board a status update on all of the departments and including an update on the CRA. So we would work together because I know that your time is limited, and what we'll do is circulate some future dates once we've gotten the dates that would work for both staff.
Follow up.
Yes.
Which departments are you referring to? The city departments?
Yes, it would be a joint city and CRA retreat to provide this board some additional background and status updates on current and pending projects.
Okay. Well, I'm in, I guess I got a different perspective on it. I was hoping that I can just deal with just the CRA simply because I kind of penciled out that date, and if I could remember, I thought we were going to try to coordinate that with the CRA CDC. Is that not still an option?
Yes, I would like to do a retreat with just the CRA board, and then with a portion of that retreat working with the CDC. They have a number of projects that we coordinate with, but also they have a number of new initiatives that they would like to work with the city on. But in speaking with various board members, it became evident that the city also is desiring to do some retreats.
So, follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
You're saying a lot, Ms. Evans. The CRA retreat that you're speaking of, are you looking to do this with the CRA CDC as well as with the city all combined? Or is that a separate retreat that you're interested in doing with the CRA and the city?
It's a separate retreat.
Okay.
If I may, it's separate, but because before we've done like a weekend, like a Saturday and a Sunday, for instance, and one day may have started off as CRA, and then it'll run into, if that takes that whole day, if not, then the city will start after the CRA has done their portion. So it will be separate, but to have us there one time for, instead of having 1 week, just one day, just CRA, and then 2 months later, city. So they would just be during the same weekend it won't be where they're, 1 minute they're talking about city stuff, then a couple hours later, the CRA is going to talk about something. They'll be distinctly separate, but in that same weekend, if that's how we want to move with it.
Have we looked at any dates yet?
No, he's going to work with the city in terms of good dates, and then we'll take a look at those dates, and then we'll figure out what dates work, and then we'll go from there. You said you had some dates already?
I had the penciled in date of June 1st for the CRA CDC. Is that still possible?
Yes, and I did, in meeting with the individual commissioners, I did try to get a consensus on which dates would work, but I wasn't able to do that. So right now I have a few dates that I know will not work to get the entire board there, so that's why we really need to circulate a variety of dates, in which I can do via email once I've coordinated with the interim city manager.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We have one public comment card.
Okay.
Mary Bram.
Ms. Bram? Is Ms. Bram here?
Mary Bram.
Good evening, Ms. Bram. We're on item number 8, the CRA Retreat and New Housing Initiative discussion.
Good day.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Miss Barry Bram, Riviera Beach. I just have a question about number 8, where it says to the CRA Retreat and New Housing Initiative discussion. We said that you all do need a retreat. My question pertaining to this, if it is permissible that you may answer this question here. Is this an evaluation of the Housing Authority Board, or is it seeing the objectives as well as the non-objectives of the Housing Authority Board? Dialogue with me on, share some highlight on this, since you pulled this here housing initiative discussion in with your retreat. Is that permissible for you all to, to let me know, I know that you all are a new board, and you do have various departments that perhaps that you need to foresee, how they are functioning, and what main, I use that term, 2 words, objective and non-objectives, because we do know that affordable housing, every city needs affordable housing, but what direction is purposely that this city here is heading to produce the housing capacity that this city here needs? We know that we are building the new development over there, but when we look all over the city here, see, I am totally put off about having a city that's totally renters, that particular aspect of this city here. We have such a jewel here in this city here. We, as a city, we need to be faced with more home ownerships to encourage our residents to take initiatives of these opportunities. We have a lot of properties and stuff in this city here, a lot of rundown properties that we need to foresee. I'm not looking at them run down. I'm looking at how we're going to push that forward in order to make housing available and more productive in this city, because we're tired of seeing that also. So if you all would take those considerations into your retreat, I am sure that you all can dialogue in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, could you just clarify what the section New Housing Initiative is?
Yes, the
related to?
CRA has reserved some future dollars to implement affordable housing, and we are only proposing to deploy that to encourage home ownership. And we were working not specifically with the Housing Authority for this particular initiative, but with the CDC, Community Development Corporation. But those are CRA dollars that would be deployed in the CRA for a new CRA program that we wanted to talk to the board about, and it's for home ownership, new home ownership only.
Okay. All right. Items tabled. We don't have any. Okay, we'll go into our public comments. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes for public comment, and they should be restricted to issues, matters, or topics pertinent to the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. Please be reminded that the CRA Board of Commissioners has adopted rules of decorum governing public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the entrance of the council chambers. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the commission chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly.
Bonnie Lawson, followed by Lloyd Brown and Willie Millsap.
Bonnie Larson. When I filled out my card, I filled out number 7 instead of number 6 because I did want to talk about the artwork. It is only good for 2 years. They have to promise for 2 years not to paint over it. And $10,000, that's a lot for only guaranteed for 2 years, I think. It's a lot. Also, the other big thing I wanted to talk about with that was that we paint murals on our building, stuff that we own, rather than other people's property. We have over there on Singer Island, we have behind the Greater Gator. I haven't seen that one yet. And then also on an attorney's office over there. I never go over that way, so I haven't seen them yet. But let's invest in ourselves sometime. I'm looking at the water tank here in Riviera Beach. It's the first thing you see when you get off 95. You see the big water tank, and it's not very attractive. It's in those Arizona hot colors, orange and gold and stuff like that. That would look good with a mural on it. So what I'm saying is invest in our own properties rather than someone else, and then we keep them as long as we want. We don't have to worry about somebody like plastering over them, or if they sell the business, there it goes. Also, one of those buildings, I don't remember the address on it, little dinky building, and you say you would see it when you're coming on Blue Heron, coming on US 1. Yes, you would, but there's also a vacant property next to it. So if someone builds on that vacant property, you're not going to see that mural. Or the person who buys that vacant property might tear down that little building. So, we have to think about those things, but I would rather we invest in our own buildings, and then we know how long we've got them. I still want my questions about the parking at the BB&T Bank, and also can they park on top? How many spaces are there over there? I still think we need to know that architect. Before we tell him what to do over there, we have to know what we want to go into the building. He can't just do something. We have to be specific about what we tell him that we want to go in there so he knows how to design it. Otherwise, we're just wasting our money. So we have to know what we're going to put in there, and that is your decision. The mural, being back to murals, the murals on Cash America building, it's beautiful. She did a really, really nice job. I would like to see, however, and this would not cost much since we already have electric on the property, let's run a spotlight over there from those existing lights so we can enjoy the thing at night. We can't see it right now at night. Can't even see it. Wouldn't cost much just to put in a light, spotlight what we've got there. I didn't like when the artists, when they had those community meetings are a good idea. What I didn't like was they charged us for them to come over there and hear what the people wanted. I think if they're trying to sell us their product, they shouldn't be charging us to listen to what we want. We need to have a discussion, and that shouldn't be Shouldn't be something they charge us for, but they did. All right, so I want my questions. And also, the last thing is, who's managing the marina right now? It was Seven Kings for a while, but now I understand there's someone else there. Who's doing it? Who's managing the marina, the dock rentals? How's it going down there? Who's managing the uplands? Who's in charge down at the marina? And we talk a lot about outsourcing things. That's an outsourcing thing if we're not managing it ourselves. But who's doing it right now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Lloyd Brown, followed by Willie Millsap.
Good evening.
Good
Eric
evening.
Dorsett.
I'm just here, I don't know what the CRA exactly what you do, but do you have anything to do with I'm asking a question now, so if it doesn't pertain to this meeting, I'm asking this question because community redevelopment. I'm just wondering, back before these places we had in Riviera that were 24 hours, who allowed these places? What kind of permits do these individuals get, to where they can have these stores open? And, what's the difference between a restaurant and a corner store that sells the same items and food, I want to know what's the difference because I've been looking through my phone and I see that they're closing down some top-notch places, that sell food. And I know that these places that sell food in Riviera Beach aren't top-notch. I talked to the superintendent for the county. She said that the health department is overwhelmed, so they're not overwhelmed with the problems we have. So what can the CRA do so that we can get people in these stores to check these stores, for what's behind the counter crawling or what's in the food or what they have on the shelves? I don't know if this has anything to do with the CRA, but it doesn't matter to me because I just wanted to bring it up because somebody gave these people, permits to stay open 24 hours. Somebody gave these people permits to cook food in these stores. And let me tell you, I saw the man that sells subs down there by J Ministry getting buns from there, taking them down to a store. So, and I don't buy out of these stores. I used to buy stuff, but only a lottery ticket or something like that. But, it's a lot of things that's going on in these stores that we need to change. You could talk about CRA, but, the community, they should be a part of this. You should try to teach the community, if you don't go to these places, maybe they'll change these situations. Does the CRA have anything to do with, what's the difference between a restaurant and the stores on our corner? That's what I want to say. Because they're closing down a lot of restaurants. And then with this hepatitis A out here, could you allow these places just to function like they're functioning now in Riviera Beach without anybody saying anything about it? That doesn't make any sense, And I've been saying this, and y'all think I'm stuck on these stores, but, I stopped going to them. And you can go in them, and you can look. You go in there one day and buy an item, it'll be 45 cents. You come in there a day later, it might be 65. And then you come back another day, they don't have SKUs, so you don't know where these items coming from. I used to see like Pepsi-Cola truck, different companies, don't cut me off, different companies coming to these stores selling stuff, right? Now all I see is vans, don't have no names on them. That could be stuff they done brought from a store in Miami that's not even, 2 days before it be outdated. But see, they're going to sell it into our stores. They're going to sell it until it's sold. And then they're going to take the money and haul ass out of the neighborhood with it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Willie Millsap, followed by Derek Dorsett and Cindy March.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Millsap, 562 West 6th Street. I'd like to talk to you about your plans for your mural and so forth and so on. I listened at each individual came up here, and all y'all are doing is just enhancing Blue Heron and US 1 or the city of Marina. I live west of the tracks off of MLK. I didn't hear you put that in there, and I do live in the CRA district. I cannot get the corner 7th Street clean because it's on the corner of Barack Obama. Y'all don't do anything over there. Y'all are talking about enhancing the beauty of a thoroughfare that I don't think none of y'all live west of the track to see it as I do every day. The only reason I come up down US 1 to come on Blue Heron is either to come pay my bills in the city or to go out the city. Because I don't participate with nothing up and down because you don't have anything to offer the residents in the city. You're are part of our city itself to make the decision that we need to make. But why haven't I heard anybody on the council today say anything about doing anything other than putting a wall at the garden on the back side in Riviera? You know, the garden is what is on 10th Street. You're going to put it on the back to a warehouse district. You ever said anything about doing anything up and down Barack Obama? That's a part of Riviera Beach as well. We don't even have a photo of our section of the city nowhere in the city. So why do y'all continue to neglect us and deny us our rights, because we are a part of this city? The only time y'all came through our city is when you got ready to get elected. You visit our churches, you knocked on our doors, but you didn't come back in our neighborhood. You don't know how we live. They don't pick up no trash in our neighborhood, but I can go on the corner of Blue Heron, it's just beautiful. On the corner of Blue Heron, US 1, I can go up and down. I see the men in the little golf carts riding up and down the street picking up paper. They pick up at Walgreens. But what about picking up in front of the old drive-in? That's a part of the district. What about picking up in front of the old Stevens Funeral Home? That's a part of it, because it starts on 6th Street and goes north. On the corner of 13th and US 1, the gentleman just mentioned the stores. You have stores throughout the city itself. How many of these stores have black employees? None. Only one. Only one store in this city, to my knowledge, allow you to come in and wash your hands and participate with their products. And that's on the corner of 4th Street. It's not a part of our city, but yet and still, the owner of that store puts money back in our city. The other ones you have in the city, they don't put a dime back in our city, but y'all will enhance them and smile with them daily. But US 1 is not a part of my resident. My resident is west of the railroad track. But you can go to the CRA district and look up on the wall, you see a beautiful photo of the overlay of the city. You can go upstairs up there, you can see a beautiful overlay of the city, but you don't show anything of the railroad tracks where I live and so many other the residents that are in this city. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Derek Dorsett, followed by Cindy March and JB Dixon.
Good evening,
Good
CRA
evening.
Board, Mayor. I want to congratulate everybody once again. I came before the board before and I spoke on this in reference to the old Dairy Bell. Nobody has gotten back with me. I spoke with Mr. Evans a couple of times. They said he was going to knock it down and make it a parking lot for the pawn shop. That's what was left with the last board. And so I'm hearing different things now, that you're going to rehab the building. I'm not certain. Also, the only supermarket we have is Publix. You know, Save-A-Lot is gone. So I was thinking maybe we can have Presidente at Silver Beach and US 1, if somebody would reach out to them. It's a good market, has many ethnic products in it. I have no problem with it. If anybody else has another market they would love to see, then we need to at least put another one besides Publix in Riviera Beach. Also, like I said, I think you're going to rehab the building at the old Dairy Bell. I would like to have it. I brought it before you all before, and so I want to see what's going to happen with that. Also, the gentleman talked about the stores, the convenience stores. I've been chiming about this for many years. I chime about it on my Facebook page that these Arabs take all of their money and go to their places. I could show you pictures of some Arabs where they have $500,000 homes in Hunter's Run and places like that. Now, they don't hire us, and that's for a reason. They're trying to keep all the money to themselves. To the gentleman that spoke prior, the Department of Agriculture deals with supermarkets, so you could reach out to them for the state of Florida as it relates to them. As it relates to restaurants, that's the Department of Business and Better Business Bureau, professional business. You could reach out to them. There's a lot of things that we still need to get done in this city. I believe in everyone up there since we have a new board, and I'm looking for some people to reach out to me in reference to what I've been trying to do in this city. I've been in this city since 7980, and I'm hoping y'all can do something not only for me, but for others also who are my color. I I just want to make it known, we got to do better by the people here. Also, you're having a special event at the marina the young lady was talking about. Are those vendors in-house vendors, in the city vendors, or outside? Because we need to deal with people inside so that we can keep those funds in the city of Revere Beach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy March, followed by J.B. Dixon and Mary Bram.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Cindy March. I just want to congratulate the new council people, and I just want to elaborate on what one of the prior speakers was saying. When I was out there campaigning, you had a lot of empty, vacant homes on the west side of town. Ms. Botel, you melt when you speak about the Ocean Mall and you speak about Broadway. Just like he was saying, and I must reiterate, it's sad because we live on the west side of town and we don't get to enjoy the beach because when we have an event, you all shut it down by 8 or 9 o'clock. But when the people that don't look like us, they can stay there to 12 and 1 o'clock and not one police is on the scene. I mean, we need to do better as a whole, as a council board. I mean, I'm not holding the people that just got elected accountable, but Botel and Kashama, y'all need to realize who put you all in office, and we the same people that can keep you in office. You can't just elaborate on one set of people that don't look like us, okay? Because our money spent just like the other people money. And if you don't know who the other people is, it's not the people that look like me. And I'm applaud because all these empty houses, all this redevelopment I heard since 6 o'clock this afternoon is going to be on Broadway, and it's going to be at the Ocean Mall, and the water going to be clean. But what these dislocated people from out of Stony Brook? What we doing about that? Come on, put yourself in their position. Don't just elaborate on one side of the town. This is Revere Beach, not just Singer Island. And we need to work together as a whole, as a team, and move the city forward and stop elaborating and indulging in BS.
Thank you.
J.B. Dixon, followed by Mary Bram and Delcia Brooks.
I would like to comment on
Could you-
J.B. Dixon,
Thank you.
3000 North Ocean Drive.
Good evening.
I'd like to comment on the CRA building. This was the first time I had seen a drawing of what the new facade would look like, and I don't know if that's permanent or if that's just an idea. I really, just like a previous speaker said, I really like the facade now. I know that I've heard other people say that it's old-fashioned, but it looks much more modern to me than the rather anonymous look that I saw in the drawing that was on the screen. I think it has much more personality the way it is now, and if that could be preserved, maybe I just have bad taste, but I think it looks better now, so that's just my opinion. I also wanted to comment on the signage proposal. I think that is so important, and I think in addition to having facades looking alike and looking neat and clean and having the same kinds of signage in front, that we have, my understanding is that we have signage requirements now in the city, and they're simply not enforced. I know in my neighborhood, there was suddenly a new electric sign put out, which is against the code or whatever, the ordinance, I don't know what it is, a lighted sign that said liquor. And that is not supposed to be according to the things that we already have in place. So I rather wonder whether or not the things that we already have are being enforced. I know that on the west side, and by the way, I do go on the west side, and I know that Dr. Botel campaigned heavily on the west side and attends a great many functions there. So it is not true that we do not go on the other side of the tracks. I would like to see whether or not those stores that Mr. Lloyd Brown talked about, and which I have visited, I would like to know why the regulations that we have in place now are not enforced. And it would seem that if there's any discrimination involved there, it's a discrimination of enforcement. And we need to clean up our acts on that, find out who is supposed to enforce it. There's even things about what kind of signage you can have in a storefront on the west side as well as anywhere else, and that is not enforced either. So I would encourage the interim city manager to look into that. I know it's not a huge priority, but it is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Bram, followed by Delcia Brooks.
Ms. Mayor Bram, Riviera Beach, I totally agree with the unification of the signage. If we are to beautify our city, we must have these signs with the same color, the same format. We talked about last week about the streets over there in Monroe Heights. They were not unified, and that's disgraceful toward our communities. The CRA, the speaker made mention about a store where Save-A-Lot was. I'm going to give you all a little history here, too, for those who are fluent here that knows. Publix used to occupy where Save-A-Lot was. Publix wanted to expand where they were. Each board comes in with their own visions that do not reach above my nose. That's how Save-A-Lot came in over there. Publix was over there. That whole little strip there, the Publix wanted to buy it, to build out Publix. So that place over there, we should have had Publix over there. Where Publix is built now is more or less like claustrophobia for Ms. Bram, but she's still patronizing. The CRA contractors, you'll hear people getting up saying, okay, the minority's this, the minority's that. The CRA had a workshop with every builder that wanted to come out to participate. See, we're tired of hearing about that too. You don't give us a chance. You don't do this. Well, when these things are presented, you sit back and you don't come out to participate. So, you know, who's to blame? Brush up on your skill sets. Get the bonding and stuff that you need. Come. But this is the thing that we hear over and over again. No, I would not hire anyone that does not have the skill set and the proper qualifications. So these things here makes our city. The B&BT Bank, that building is a corner lot here. I don't know whether you all are planning, whatever you all are planning to do with that. I'm quite sure that you would perhaps like to make that as a hub. But I know it's a lot of renovation that must go into that building. And if you transform that building into office spaces, you must consider that parking area over there. It would be hardly any parking space over there to occupy that building there. So you all really need to think. You all really need to think about that building because it is on the corner there. I've said many times that the CRA boundaries need to be include with an expansion more on the west side. See, I make no bones. I stood up here one time and said, dissolve it, because they wasn't doing really what they needed to be doing. It should serve more, too, on the west side.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Graham.
you.
Delcia Brooks Hamilton.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Chairpersons, Mr. Evans and the new mayor, Fedler. My name is Delcia Brooks Hamilton, and I live in West Palm Beach, the acreage. And the question I have is for Mr. Scott. I would like to know what is going on with Phase 2 of the marina development, specifically the restaurant. Now, I would like to move forward to build my restaurant. It's been 5 years, and get it up and running. Now, is there any way in which the restaurant can be developed first? And that was the original plan. And I was told that the reason why there wasn't any parking space and that they needed to build a parking garage. In the meantime, there is the cafe, which is the Rafiki Tivki, and they're occupying the parking space. I'm ready. My developers are ready. My contractors are ready. I have my rendering. I have the funds. So I'd like to know what's going on. I'd like to be able to separate the restaurant from the rest of the development. And that was the original plan. I'm sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm having to go into doing, other careers because nothing is happening. I'm a professional, I'm a black woman, and, I know how to get the job done. So I would like to find out if I can move forward.
We'll come back towards the end, and we'll probably more than likely have Mr. Evans speak with you after the meeting, but any questions that he can answer from the dais, he will do so at the end of public comment.
Okay. Because speaking to my investor, I don't see why not. I was not allowed to build a restaurant. I had the money. I have the funds. So what's going on? I'd like to know that because, I feel like I'm being discriminated against. I don't see any other reason as a woman. And, women are leading the restaurant industry today. And, my family has been in the business for over, I would say, 40 years. And I know I can do a great job. I can provide good jobs for the community, uplift the community, get some business going, owned by somebody like me. So I would like to set an appointment with Mr. Evans and discuss moving forward.
Okay.
So I thank you.
Thank you.
That's the end of public comment.
Okay, Mr. Evans, if you have any updates or answers to any of the public comments, you could do so at this time.
Okay. Yes, one of the constraints as we look through the various uses for the new building will be parking, so we'll be closely looking at the existing available parking, which is 21 spaces.
Which building is this?
This is the building on the northeast corner of Broadway and Blue Heron at 2600. Parking cannot be built on the second floor of the existing building. We agree that there does need to be a spotlight on the mural, and that will be installed shortly, actually. The city's code enforcement department and zoning regulations are what determine how long businesses can be open, and so they're the correct enforcement agency for following up on that. The CRA does have substantial neighborhood improvement efforts. We have over $2 million to create affordable housing within the neighborhoods that are within the CRA boundaries. That is between 6th Street and 10th Street to the north and the south, and between Australian Avenue and Barack Obama Highway. And that's one of the items I referred to previously that I wanted to discuss at the retreat, is how we best deploy those funds to try and generate new home ownership within those neighborhoods. Just looking through the comments, the Phase 2 Marina development did at one point back in, I want to say 2013, 2014, look at individual proposals. It was very hard to coordinate competing restaurants and the need to do a master management of the facility and the need for a parking garage with individual owners. So the board determined to go out for a new master developer, and we will, now that we have a new board, we will quickly address the status of that master development proposals. I think that's all of the responses.
Okay.
I will reach out to Presidente and let them know of that availability of that property. It is a vacant piece, and it's very important that we do find a use in the future.
I would say to reach out to various places. I don't know that we want to definitely get the community input on that in terms of what grocery store. I mean, they can come, but if nobody is going to be utilizing it, we want to make sure that we get in something that many people want to use. Okay.
And of course, it's a private development property, and we're not involved with them in any way.
Right. All right. Do we have a report from the executive director?
Nothing at this time.
Report of the general counsel? Discussion of the board. We can start from Councilman Lawson and come down to the end.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few quick questions and then a few statements. I know we spoke about Marina Phase 2 project, and we're going to be doing a debriefing about that, but I just want to know what would be our next steps with Phase 2 over the next coming weeks or months for the board and for our direction. The question for council, if the city decided to go in the direction of a disparity study, what would be the process with piggybacking with the CRA and the city and partnering together to bring a disparity study? Because we've talked a lot about local participation and minority WMBE participation, but what would be that process with incorporating the CRA and the city for that study together so that we can have more local and women minority participation within some of these bids that are going out? And
You want him to go ahead and answer that now?
you can.
Yeah. Well, as you know, disparity study is needed to implement some of the minority participation programs. It would make sense if the city and CRA, in fact, did a joint, funded a study together, since it is going to cover the same geographical area. I understand that they are very costly. I've heard some figures, and we've talked about, the board has talked about it in the past, but there's been really no movement from the board about doing it. So I think it'd be a good idea. It would make no sense for the CRA to do a disparity study by itself. So if in fact you decide to move forward, it should be a joint study funded by both the CRA. Make sense to be funded by both the CRA and the city.
Okay.
But Mr. Haygood, the item that you and Mr. Evans have been working on in terms of getting more minority participation or local participation, that is something that I'd spoken with you all several months back, and I know there was we kind of held off a little bit on it, so maybe that would be something good to bring back up now that we have the new board in place and see how that could be utilized probably a much more quicker than the disparity study. We can still work on that, but that's something that we may be able to start doing a little quicker.
Yeah, I did not mention that. We had discussed, I guess in the latter part of last year, the first of this year, of implementing something specifically for the CRA, since the CRA is moving forward with some major capital programs as opposed, I guess, to where the city is. And we thought that we could move forward with some of those things without having to do a disparity study.
So we'll just make sure we start having that
That'll
conversation.
be coming back to you also.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So to piggyback on that, the understanding that it is an expensive cost to bring a disparity study, and that's why a partnership between the CRA and the city, because combating the fact that we need to focus on minority and women participation, because I'm seeing these contracts coming about and I'm not seeing local participation, minority participation in them. So I understand it's expensive, but combating that is expensive. So we have to put a fight towards it now and get started on bringing that to the table. So I'd love for the city and the CRA to work together and possibly funding that study. And then the other question was, Mr. Evans, if we could look at the location on Barak and 9th Street, which falls within our district, as a possible mural site as well, on the corner of MLK and Barack Obama would be a good possible location if we could find a space there and maybe even partner with the port as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Lanier?
No comment.
Councilman McCoy?
No, ma'am.
Councilwoman Botel?
Just wanted to thank people for coming out to the recent quarterly Singer Island Town Hall meeting, and to let people know that we had a lecture on the quality of the beaches recently at the Dunes condominium, sorry, and that I hope to institute a lecture series on waterfront issues. We had Dr. Tiffany Briggs from FAU she's a geologist, talk about the quality of the beaches, and she's going to recommend a biologist to talk about the rack line. I didn't know what the rack line was, but it's a seaweed. So we'll be talking about that at future meetings. And I am participating in the environmental subcommittee of the Palm Beach North Chamber Economic Development Committee, and we will be instituting a program to try to encourage local businesses to eliminate the use of plastic straws and single-use or in some communities, multiple use plastic water bottles. Thank you.
Mayor Felder?
Yes, good evening. Couple things. This may be addressed to Scott. You said we have $2 million for development housing.
Yes, sir.
Are we working with or have we worked with the housing authority to help out with the building of these houses?
We've been coordinating with the Housing Authority on a couple of projects. One is a mixed-use development on CRA property located on Avenue E. That's the main one that we've been moving forward with.
Do you think we can include them in some of the other building if we identify some properties to build housing?
Yeah, any project that's in the CRA, we can partner with that agency to assist.
Okay, and to address the citizen that complained about the old drive-in, Barack Obama, the old Stevens, will we take a look at that to make sure those properties are clean?
Yes, yeah. That particular property, the old drive-in, is not within the CRA.
Okay.
But our Clean and Safe ambassadors are picking up litter all over the city, over the city that's within the CRA, that is. And we will make sure that we follow up within those neighborhoods.
Okay, now I get what you're this. Thank you.
And I believe that on next week for the city's agenda, there's an item on there regarding the old drive-in. So there should start to be some action going there, and at least we could hold those people accountable for making sure that area is clean. And I think that was it. I don't have any comments at this time.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I did just want a quick follow-up in regards to Phase 2. Marina, what is our timeline? What does it look like? I know we're going to be doing a meeting to discuss what's happening, but what is our next steps as a board for Phase 2?
The next step is that the board needs to determine how to respond to the proposal of the two teams to try and work together. So I'll be meeting one-on-one with the board members individually over the next 2 days to gather your input and comments on the feedback we propose to provide to them. And then once I've met with the individual board members and understand your perspective, then we'll bring it back to you at a future CRA meeting to make a decision and determination on how to proceed.
Madam Chair, was the process tabled by the board for progress with Phase 2?
Yes, it was tabled.
I'm not sure if it was tabled or just...
It was tabled.
From a parliamentary standpoint, I don't know if it was formally tabled or not, but we were directed by the board, I think because of the turnover in with the elections, to wait and see what the new board is going to do and give you opportunity rather than committing the new board to moving forward with it. So we're going to bring it back to this new board for you all to tell us how you want to move forward.
And then will we be allowed to put that on the new agenda for the next CRA meeting? Or do we have to untable it first? Even though you said it's not actually tabled.
Yeah, I don't think we have to formally, quote, bring it off of the untable the matter. We'll just bring it back to you. And I don't know when we're going to be prepared to bring, but I think the schedule is to bring it back to you in May, at one of your May meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. If no one else has any other comments,
Chair,
yes.
Mr. Evans, can you send me those proposals for the joint venture prior to us meeting?
Yes, but part of the comments that we'll discuss is that there is no proposal other than a couple of sheets of paper. So I think the critical thing is that we need to have them better define what that proposal might be.
Well, if I'm going to meet with you, I at least want to know what you already have. So can you send me that anyways, even if it's not a proposal?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. We will be adjourning the CRA meeting, and we do have the special city council meeting that will begin, and we'll adjourn for about 15 minutes, and then we'll start back around 8:25. This meeting is adjourned.